she drives a pickup truck and slams the gas pedal, crashing straight through her in-law's front gate, just because her mother-in-law wouldn't let her in to see her son. Jihan is furious about Alia's actions, but feels powerless. However, despite all this, her mother-in-law still refuses to let her see her son. Her mother-in-law says she's already given Alia a chance. She could have been Jihan's wife, but unfortunately, she didn't appreciate it. Instead, she did something that betrayed the family. It turns out that not long ago, Alia secretly met with her enemy Demir. Demir asked her to promise to marry Jihan, to be his spy and monitor every move of the Abul family. But Alia never wanted to marry Jihan. She told Jihan about the deal, hoping to make him abandon the idea of marrying her. But Jihan was certain Alia wouldn't betray him and side with the enemy. He still insisted on marrying her. At that moment, Demir suddenly appeared. She told Jihan not to speak too soon. Even a rabbit will bite when pushed too hard. She said this and got in her car, ready to leave. Furious, Jihan punched Demir's car window until it shattered. Then, he dragged her out of the car and gave her a beating right in the face. It took the men from both sides to pull them apart. Jihan drove Alia to the wilderness to talk. Alia noticed his hand was still bleeding, so she helped him bandage it. Jihan asked her when she started contacting Demir. Alia confessed it was the night she went to the detention center. She promised not to keep an eye on his son, so she went to meet him. Seeing Jihan's scornful look, Alia said, "If you hadn't pushed me so hard, I would never have gone to meet Demir." Jihan could only understand, but he was puzzled how Demir knew about their marriage plans. Alia wasn't sure either. She only told NEA about it, but NEA would never talk. Jihan guessed that maybe it was overheard by Austin. Alia, however, didn't care at all. Who told Demir? She only begged Jihan not to force her into marriage, or else, for her son, she might actually do what Demir asked. However, Jihan knew her very well. She could have quietly accepted Demir's deal, but she chose to tell him about it, just to try to talk him out of it. Alia had nothing to say as he figured her out, but both of them had their own positions, and there was no right or wrong, so they were both in a dilemma. Soon, Jihan took Alia back to NEA's house. NEA couldn't understand how Alia could meet with Demir. Alia could only explain that she had to meet him for her son. Why couldn't even he understand her? At that moment, Dennis saw his mother had returned and rushed over, but NEA heard a knock and went to answer the door. Unexpectedly, the men watching them had received an order from her mother-in-law to take Dennis back to the mansion. They immediately snatched Dennis from Alia's hands and put him in the car to take him back to the mansion. In a panic, Alia broke free from their hold and jumped into a car to chase after them, because her mother-in-law wouldn't let Alia in. The scene at the beginning unfolded where Alia crashed into the door. Her mother-in-law suspected Alia of collaborating with the enemy, and believed it was her fault that Byra died. She forbade Alia from seeing her grandson again, and refused to allow her to marry Jihan.